Welcome to another episode of Threads of Enlightenment. You guys know how I feel about this precious commodities that I know that my visitors are coming with, very precious in my eyes. One is time. What a beautiful gift that we have been offered as human beings on this planet. We call those years, seconds, and all the minutes and whatever. But it's time. And how we relate to time, how we love, respect, and honor time will tell me much about your life. The other is the journey. The journey houses tremendous amount of power because it created the individual that is before us. And Mette is before us, and she's here to spend both of those precious, expensive stuff. And I am honored that she's here to help you and I to become better human spirits while we're here on this thing that they tell us is called Earth, so that we can experience what we are longing for, to find out who we are. Thank you so much for coming to Threads of Enlightenment.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Thank you very much for inviting me. First of all, maybe I can take a few minutes to tell you that 2 days ago, my oldest daughter, she gave birth to my second grandchild, a little baby boy. Thank you very much. And in my world, the most important exams we all pass is actually when we when we are born, and that's the only exam that really counts. Who are we? Which is really what you are interested in, and what we are all interested in, is that. A couple of years ago, I worked with very experienced business people, and they have all achieved so much, but they are not very sure about what they have achieved, if their dads are proud of them, if they have done good, is that life to achieve a lot in corporate life. And then I started to wonder, how come that, they have built companies, they have, sold them, and they have so much, but they don't see it. And they are very worried about this and that. And then I also started to look at myself and my own worries about this and that. And then on my bike one day, I got this little aha thing that when I believed my thoughts, I was feeling miserable. But when I didn't believe them, I was okay. So then I took, I started to dive into what is thoughts? What are emotions, feelings? What come first? And then I discovered that we do not have any feelings without a thought first. All our thoughts are generating our feelings. And it's our feelings that we react upon. And all the feelings we have, that are very stressful, like, fear, and we are angry, we feel shame. When we look into what the thought that we have just before the emotion, we get to see that what we were thinking is just fiction. It's just a story telling ourselves, but that we in a very small moment believe to be true and define who we are. But when we start to really become aware of what's going on, we have around 60,000 thoughts a day. When we start to see that we are not our thoughts nor our feelings, that's something we have. It comes and goes, just like the clouds on the sky. But the moment we keep onto the thoughts and believe them to be true, we really create a miserable life, nightmare. And then people started to say, when do we know that we are lying for ourselves? And then I told them that the moment we start to become aware of how we feel, the feelings that we have, we also start to become aware of what generated the feelings.
Yeah.
But sometimes, or very, very often, because we believe our thoughts to be who we are, it's so difficult for us to let them go. Because a lot of people, they have become, they believe that they are victims in their own lives. Like you said something about, trauma.
Yeah.
And we all have kind of trauma. But we also believe that, when we have a trauma, that can be, for instance, me, when I was 23 years old, I lost my twin brother. And it was in an accident in the United States. I'm from Denmark, so he was abroad doing his studies. And I discovered that before then, I didn't really say I or me. I always said we and us. And suddenly I had to, become aware of me being just me. And a lot of people would say that must have been really a big trauma in your life. And in the moment when it happened, of course, it felt like that. But now afterwards, many years afterwards, actually, it was just life happening. It was not what happened that really made me scared me. It was what I was thinking about, what was happening, that scared me. So you ask me, who are you? And actually, I'm awareness. So many things are happening in front of me. I'm the one observing. And over the years, I've become rather good at just observing. And the moment when I forget just to observe and engage me in whatever is going on out there. My parents, they're very old now. My mom, she has had a stroke. The moment I start to, make a lot of fantasies about the future, which is not, the future doesn't exist. Yesterday doesn't exist. The moment here and now, looking at my mom, we having a coffee together. She's saying a lot of things that is a little, she's losing her memory. But we have a nice time in the moment. Her and I drinking coffee. She's smiling. Everything is okay. But the moment I start to fantasy, to make up fiction stories about the future, I lose the magic of life. And I scare myself. It has nothing to do with her and I, and with her stroke. It has only something to do with my thinking about the current situation. So I have come to realize that who I am is the observer. And it's not just me, all of us. We just don't really know it. And if I have a mission in life, it is actually to share my insight. And maybe that way help people to see that they don't need to believe everything they think. And I wrote a book about it. Can I show it?
Oh,
my
yes,
book?
Please.
This
Please.
book. And it's you can find it on Amazon. And it's about what happens when we start to become aware of our feelings and the thoughts behind the feelings. And when we question whether that is true, what we are making up, we get to see that it's just fiction.
Yeah.
It's a little like, when you and I, we meet, I don't really meet you. I meet my own story about you. That means that actually I meet myself.
Mm-hmm.
So when we become aware of how we can empty our heads for thoughts, or that's not correct. We cannot empty our head, but what we can just let it go. And in that moment, being together with another person, we will become much better in listening and getting to understand the other person. And in that moment, we will also be a much better person to help.
Yeah, I agree.
And actually, it's very, very simple. It is actually so simple that we may think in an innocent small moment that if it's so simple, it cannot be true. Because we are so used to have a very, complex everything, relations and, everything. But that's just something that we make up. Life in its essence, it's love, it's kind. But when we look out and we see what happens, crazy people and crazy wars, and we may think that life is not nice.
Yeah.
But I would say that everything is because we believe what we are thinking.
We activate the thought, activate that one of the most powerful force that is reside within the human being, and that is our imagination. And you're absolutely right. When we step out of the present, that's when all things go haywire. We're called to live in the present. Even again, I try to refer to the Bible because I came out of the church, and Jesus said, he said, tomorrow is not given to you, but what is given to you is right now. And what you do with right now is all up to you. And he talked about the thoughts as well to his disciples. He was teaching them, and he said, take no thought saying. And when I saw that, I got some insight into that piece of nugget that he had dropped there. Was don't agree with the thoughts. Take no thoughts saying. Don't agree with all of them that comes to you. Those that are negative thoughts telling you that you're no good, you're less than.
It's just
your
ego.
To agree. Yeah, you don't have to agree with it. Because if you agree with it, it will become your reality because it's you who are agreeing with it. And so you have the choice as to not to agree with it. When someone calls you a name, you don't have to agree with that name. But I know as kids are wounded because of their parent and adults who we have given authority over, we look as the authority figures. After certain times, those words do penetrate our defenses, if you will, and we accept those words. And the mom may, dad may say, "You'll never amount to anything," or someone will say that to you, and one day you will agree with them, and when you agree with them, you are in problem.
And that is why it could be very good if this was, taught in schools.
I
actually don't think that parents, they want to harm their kids at all. So when they behave like that, it's because they are believing something that they are telling themselves. They're not really describing the kids. They're describing themselves.
Correct.
And it's very innocent, because they don't know better, and they are not aware of it. And
it's very simple. That is
it
very
is.
simple. People make it complicated because of, I think what they do, people try to control others, and they make it as this big um, thing that it's not. Life is a very simple thing if one understands some of the minute processes by which we exist and move. And the very first one is what we're talking about, is your thoughts. You, there are tools that I brought into my life because I was brought up in corporate America, and I was a director of this and that and whatever title I received. Um, but my mind was always racing. I was always just constantly racing, and I watched my life spiral out of control. And one day I was led to introduce meditation. And meditation is simply a tool that one can utilize to help slow down your thoughts, take control, take ownership of your thoughts. And as you stated, thoughts will come 100 million times a day. But when I was in my meditative state, I actually used to say to my thoughts, not now. And when I said that, you would be amazed how they began to subside because they understood that at this point
Yeah.
in time, I was not giving them permission to roam free in my mind. It gave me time to pick as it comes because you'll see it actually slowed them down, man. And I was able to
Those
pick
you're
which
totally
one I
right.
want.
Those
Yeah.
thoughts that that are like it's just like naughty teenagers.
Yeah.
You have to treat them with love and with a
Mm-hmm.
certain kind of to your room now. I have seen you.
Yeah.
And you can come back when you have, calm down. And but I also think that why most people they don't get it, it is because
Mm-hmm.
when they have all those feelings, your heart is beating, you have this
Yeah.
in your stomach, you really feel it. So when
Yeah.
I can feel so much, it must be true,
Yeah.
right? So it's amazing, but actually, it's just a sign that the quality of what you are thinking is true,
Mm-hmm.
needs a little, adjustment. So,
Yeah.
so there's nothing here which is not kind of divine engineered. But if we don't get it, we don't get it. And then
Yeah.
we don't, can play it so that we really
Mm-hmm.
experiment, life as divine. Because we become afraid.
Yeah.
And this
And
doesn't mean that we should not, be. When I talk about being present, it doesn't mean that I
yeah.
don't care about the future or my history or whatever. But I'm just aware that this moment create the next little moment. And if I'm not present here, how can I then, um, enjoy my future? And another thing is that all future problems, they will always be solved in the present moment. I
Mm-hmm.
cannot solve a problem today which will maybe appear tomorrow. That's not
I agree.
possible because it
Yeah.
doesn't exist.
Yeah.
So the moment we become, much more aware of this little small moment, Ken and I, you and I, now,
Mm-hmm.
this is what there's nothing else.
Yes.
And then life become much more friendly.
Becomes more tasteful as you
Also,
begin to, your experience is much deeper when you are in that space, and recognize that you are in the moment, and in the moment it has all the wisdom, the knowledge, the insights that you will ever need if you make yourself available to it. We can resist these things, but you have to become available to it. And that availability is always being present, because the thoughts that you need will show up. That is necessary to rescue when you're present.
If we ask your audience now to close their eyes, and then for a short moment, we don't say anything. Okay. I'm sure that if I ask you now, what happened? I think that maybe there is a voice in your head saying, this is a little weird. And then there's another voice saying, oh no, go with the flow. Just listen, try it out. But to become aware of those voices, there must be a third one, kind of observing the two with what's going on. So I think that most people, they are not aware of what is a thought. They are not aware of what's going on in their head, or, the dialogue that they have with themselves. It has become so, it's just, me. But the moment when they can, start to observe what is actually going on now, that moment will help them to meet whatever will be, meet them on their plate with a curiosity. And they will also discover that in that moment, their need of judging. We are so good in judge. We judge everyone, ourselves and all the others. But in that moment, when we become aware of that we are not our thoughts, we find out that we don't need to judge everything and everyone.
I believe anyone that judges someone else practices judgment on themselves, because they're familiar with it.
Yeah, but they don't know. They don't see themselves.
Yeah. You can only practice what you know. If you're hateful, you hate yourself. And because of that, we see the fruit of you manifesting because you hate me. It is a reciprocal. I'm your mirror when we meet. And people need to understand that those that are around you are your mirror. They're friends. I tell people that people come into our space to make us aware of I call them the scotomas, the blind sides. Those programming that you don't even know that you're doing it, because you're so comfortable. It is you, and they may make a comment. Pardon the expression. They may say you're such a prick, and your immediate response is to anything like anyone else. If it's sensitive, if you touch something that is sensitive, there is a reaction. And because it's sensitive, you reacted by outbursts and whatever. But when you get into your quiet space and you begin to investigate, why did they say that? And you begin to question, as Mette had said earlier, the questions that will unearth those feelings, those pain, those dark spaces that you have. Begin to question yourself, your behavior, your actions, your thoughts, because you have been living on your default mode for 30, 40, 50 years. And when people begin to enter in, when that revelation of who you are through trauma comes in and begin to wake you up, it is your appointed, I call it your divine appointment for you to get to know who you are. So here you are. I want to ask you this question. How old were you when you began to receive these insights? You had mentioned about your brother, your twin brother, in his death, and you mentioned that it was a traumatic situation for you at that time. How did you overcome that trauma, that pain? Because that is have someone that is. They say the twins are a little closer than all the others, if you will. How did you overcome that particular trauma as you are moving through your life?
Maybe because he really never died within me. I saw him. He came home to Denmark from the States in a coffin, and I saw him, and I could say, okay, this is Kim, my brother.
Yeah.
And yet it was not really Kim. That was one thing. And another thing is that I could grieve from my heart, from love, but not because there was something that I hadn't done or didn't told. I have always kissed him a lot, and I have always said, I love you, and we have been traveling together, and there was no unfinished business.
Yeah.
So what I'm saying now, it sounds maybe crazy, but in that moment, I didn't say what I'm going to say now, but now I say it.
Yeah.
It was okay. It was okay. And I was okay. But now I have 3 kids, and I have had a period where I've been afraid, when they turned 23, I was sent me a text message when you get home, and I was a little, afraid of something should happen to them. But again, because of what I'm doing and my book and everything, I knew that now, Mette, you are scaring the hell out of yourself. So I managed to. I've always been curious, and I always had this inner feeling that life is a gift, and also when it hurts, and that it's a little like, now we have clouds on the sky, but above the clouds there's a blue sky. I have always a blue sky within me. We all have. It's not just me. We all have. So actually, there's only one thing to do, and that is to be grateful. So I think that the feeling of gratefulness fills me with the strength that can overcome whatever.
This is one of the most powerful forces that a human being has, is the attitude of gratefulness and thankfulness and gratitude and all of these things. Because when you look at your life, can your emotional and your fears, or your states, I call them states, where you're in a state of joyfulness, you're in a state of thanksgiving, you are in a state of fearfulness. Now, these states will bring fruit in your life, and I'll give you guys a story. again, I always pull from my background. There's this story about this man called Job, a very wealthy man in the day of his time. And he had some kids and his cattle and whatever. And one day all of this stuff was destroyed. And he would go praying every morning when his sons and his kids would be partying. And whatever morning he would pray that they would not do anything to offend God and whatever. And one morning, his all of his servants are coming from all over the place telling him that all of his kids are dead. All of his wealth is being destroyed. Everything, his whole world. And the man said, "The thing that I have feared has come upon me." What a powerful statement. And so he lived in this state of fearfulness all his time, even though he was wealthy, even though he's kids and everything. And he pulled his fearfulness, pulled that thought that he had that his kids would die and he would lose his wealth. The thing that I have feared has come upon me. And he pulled that into his family and destroyed his entire family and his wealth. And so I am saying that to tell you that when you are in a state of gratefulness and thanksgiving and all of those type of states, you will pull all of those rewards that come with that type of thinking, that type of presence, as well as the negative. The choice is, Maddie said, is that person in the middle, the observer that is sitting there watching this and deciding, what is going on. But it's that one in the middle that will help you get out if you would give it permission to bring you out. Still your choice. And so you have to figure out what state do you want to live in. And you have to, this has to be done in the present at all times. If you step out of the present, you're either going to be tapping into some of those fearfulness or other things that you shouldn't be in, because as you become steady in your present, you will appreciate that person in front of you. You'll appreciate their breathing. You'll appreciate the noise in the bird, the dog, everything becomes exciting in that moment.
But to get to that point, it's not enough that you are intellectually bright.
Oh, no.
Because I am sure that we can all, what we have been talking about here, it sounds okay. Logic,
It's not an intellectual exercise,
yeah,
trust me.
No.
You know.
So really to get this, we need to become still. And we need to look inside. And also have the curiosity or the courage to stay a little put with certain feelings, and to to look at it from the inside perspective, and it can be that we, after I'm 60 now, just turned 60.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What if what I have been believing for almost all my life show me that it is I've been living on a lie?
Yeah.
What can I live with that? That I have kind of spent my whole life believing something that I have been almost maybe I've been divorced many times, and I don't know, because I followed some goals that I believed to be true, and suddenly I discover that I have misunderstood something very crucial. So some of my clients, they can be very afraid of getting too close to the inner truth. But the moment that they have this, wow, my God, they find out that there's nothing to be afraid of. But until that point, a lot of people, they just stay so close to what they believe, even though that it's destroying them and their family.
Yeah.
So
it takes courage.
It definitely does. And afterwards they will see that was also something that they just believed to be true. And that there's actually nothing to be afraid of.
The thought, the imagination will always keep us in. It's a neutral tool. We need it also to do the reciprocal of seeing the bad things. We can use that imagination to look and see the thing that we want to have, the desired outcome, if you will.
Yeah, or something that we did. You said this about, the parents who really harmed their kids. What if those parents, they found the courage to look inside and found out that what they had believing to be a good way of bringing up kids was really awful? Then they actually could do something about it. They could come up with an apology. They could, and maybe that would be just enough for their kids now grown up to, not repeat their bad behavior, and maybe also get to understand themselves better. It's never too late to to say, I'm sorry. I thought what I was doing was the right thing, but now I know better. And again, actually, it's so simple that sometimes when I can see that, if you just could see, you just need to adjust here a little, then wow. But if you don't get it, you don't get it. And you also said something about the journey. Each of us, we have to do it our way.
Yeah.
And that's okay too. But if I can just, make one soul silent enough time for that soul to understand that she's okay. She's okay.
Yeah, I'll give you.
Then she can move
listeners some advice. Yeah, I'll give you guys some advice. What she's talking about is key. The shifting of the perspective when someone like Maddie is guiding you in a conversation. She talked about some of her clients that she see, the power brokers that she had mentioned, these executives. And a lot of people are afraid to see themselves because they have a picture of themselves in their mind as this monster. And they don't want to see that monster become acquainted with the monster that is inside that they have created. This is their imagination from wherever they've got it from, mom and dad, family, wherever that seed was planted and now is a tree rooted there. And so when she begins to bring the light meaning it comes by questions, she'll ask you certain questions because what she's doing is locating you. And when she locates you, those questions will be able to shift your perspective from darkness to light, from the old way to the new way, where you will surrender. You got to surrender right here. This little passage right there it's just this little bridge, but most people don't want to take that little walk. But trust me, if you take that little walk, your freedom is on the other side of that bridge. And all it is a very small space that you have to surrender. And when you surrender right there, I guarantee you, your freedom is waiting to greet you. It's been there, just simply
all the
waiting
time.
for you to surrender, to get to that place of surrendering so that it can hold your hands and say, welcome, here we go, and
So
change your life.
nicely put.
So that's where you have to find yourself. It's that perspective. Allow yourself, love yourself enough to break the constant resistance. Surrender right there and allow yourself to experience this new thinking and see what the outcome will bring you. Surrender to it. You've been living the other way for 20 or 30 years. Why not surrender to something different, just to see, if you will?
You can
And
always get back.
I know you can always go back.
But actually you can't, because you don't want to.
No, you don't want to.
No.
Once you've crossed that bridge, and then you look back to where you were, you will appreciate your new surroundings, and you
And
will not want to
and
go
you
back.
become a much better parent. You become a much
Yes.
better leader. You become, and it feels better. And
Yeah.
your stress, if you have been, stressful, it disappear.
Yeah. It's a state.
Because stress is actually has not much to do with your boss. It's what you think about your boss. It can be that you should think about maybe having another boss in another company. But anyway, it's what you're thinking about your boss that really is stressful, or your colleagues. And in that moment, when you get to see that, and then maybe you can, you can meet your boss with a little bit more, care about him. Instead of making only one cup of coffee, make two. Get by his office and tell him that, oh, you looked a little tired this morning. Are there anything I can do for you? Oh my God, I'm so glad you came. My wife, my car, my whatever. Oh, and that in that moment you thought, oh, and I thought that I would soon be, laid off. Just a thinking, a story you tell yourself.
Yeah, it is all a story, guys. Just write a new story.
The only thing you can lose is a story.
Yeah, it is, and that's where you learn how to reprogram your thoughts, reprogram. You bring in tools into your life. There's so many of them. You have meditation, you have journaling, you have so many tools that you can bring into your life to help you, to assist you to begin to reprogram your thoughts and create and write a new story so that you can get a chance to experience you. You are, the story is about you, and you don't know how beautiful you are until you step out of hatred and begin to love. And then you are looking at yourself several weeks, months later, you go, wow, I have become and recognized the beauty that is in me. And you are now responding to others with a smile on your face, a hug. You are embracing them and seeing the
even
preciousness
your neighbor
of
and
them.
your boss,
Everything.
and
Everything.
even your teenage kids. So and it's it is really Very simple.
Simple.
The moment you get it.
Yeah. The moment you get it is the moment you surrender. We call it
Voila.
surrender.
Surrender.
And that's what it is. You have to come to that place where you are sick and tired of being sick and tired and surrender.
Yeah.
And when you surrender, you're surrendering to your new self, not to anyone, your coach, or none of that stuff.
No.
You're surrendering to your new self. It's you, you're surrendering to you. And give yourself an opportunity to surrender to yourself. It is one of the most liberating places that you'll ever experience in your life. And you'll learn love and forgiveness and all of those things there because you'll forgive yourself.
And actually, in that moment, there will be one war less in the world.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we don't need more wars in the world.
Yeah. No. Guys, I love this conversation because she's talking about everything I believe, everything that I've been teaching for my entire life, and here at this podcast. Guys, I want to really afford you the opportunity to get to her. I'm going to provide everything so that you can have access to her. She deals with executive and people, but she deals with all of us that needs guidance, that wants to experience you, that want to learn how to surrender to yourself. I have someone that has some insight, some knowledge, wisdom in that space that will be honored to walk with you and to bring you to that bridge, which we have been calling surrender, so she can shift your perspective. And now you're going to learn how to trust this new you. You're going to have to trust yourself. And that's that bridge that she will lead you to. But that choice is still yours. But when you make it, your liberation, your freedom awaits you. And you await you, a new you that will show you greater things about yourself that you did not know you're capable of doing, thinking, and saying and responding. It is a beautiful place to be. I want to thank you so much, Maddie, for coming to us here at President Enlightenment to share your wisdom and your knowledge.
Thank you very much for having me.
You're welcome.